Milsurp Garage. Iver Johnson Target Sealed 8. Let me let you know right off the bat, I am no Iver Johnson expert. How I came about owning this gun is I was picking up a transfer, an FFL transfer, something I was buying that was being sent to me through an FFL, and this was in the guy's display case for, I'm trying to remember, it might have been $75 or something, where I was just like, well, where do you see, I'm like, what is that thing, in 22? And even he was like, I'm not even sure if it functions. I was like, oh, whatever, just throw it in there. You know, this guy's got like a policy where if I buy something, he doesn't really charge me the fee, the transfer fee. I noticed that's kind of like how the guy rolls. Like, I mean, it was almost as much as the transfer fee. Like, technically, if you really figured out that I didn't pay the transfer fee, I might have walked out of there with this thing for like 25, 35 bucks or something. So for me, it was just something to knock around with or whatever, just to, just see what's going on with it. And I actually had a lot of fun with this thing, so much so that this is like the information I've got here and just doing the research on it and messing with the gun itself was one of the most rewarding I've had in a while. So hopefully there's a lot of fans out there that will excuse my ignorance with Iver Johnson if I get some things wrong here. Don't yell at me. Let's go get into the comments and, let's get this, we'll get this all done together. But, let me just throw together, first of all, well, second of all, I'll let you know, there's no way I'm going to be doing an Iver Johnson history lesson here because this company was insane. Okay, originally called the Iver Johnson Firearms Bicycle, and see, I even got that wrong. Had something to do with bicycles. These guys made firearms, bicycles, and motorcycles. And they put, I think originally they were from Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I know even the company moved around a bit. Now, there were a lot of different changes, a lot of different moves, a lot of different, pre-war, post-war, because they've been around for so long. And they were just Iver Johnson the whole way, except there's just one little thing about it, is that in 2006, Iver Johnson stuff cropped up. There was like an Iver Johnson's Arms Company, and that was in name only. In 2006, they had nothing to do with the original company. The original company was around from 1871 to 1993. The founder was Norwegian-born Iver Johnson, who was born 1841, died 1895. And he had a bunch of sons, and they continued on with the company. And then, if you really want to know more about their bicycle stuff, or here, look, check out this. Their bicycles are known for being like, prized bicycles to the bicycle collector people. So it wasn't like they just did that on the side. Like and I'm pretty sure even their motorcycles have a huge following. But the company itself went through a lot of different incarnations, a lot of different, they were like very, very prolific during the Depression, which you'd think that would be odd, but during the Depression, and we'll get to it later, maybe I'll show you, because I have some ads that are just so crazy, but they offered cheap guns during a period when during the Depression there was just a lot of like a rise in crime, because of there were a lot of people poor, you know what I mean? So there was a rise in crime. People didn't have a lot of money, but they needed to get something to protect themselves, and Iver Johnson offered some low-priced guns. So they became very popular then, and they sure had a whole lot of different models out there. But the period after, and then into World War II, they did well also. And then after World War II, it's kind of like when things got got a little bit weird. And this one is a 49. So it's kind of like in the period when it might not have been the best quality. And, this is the reason why I was having some issues with it or whatever. But anything that I show you that was wrong with this one or that I'm going through, it might not be indicative of their entire line of guns, since they made guns from 1871 to 1993, for crying out loud. They went through a lot of different changes. But this period wasn't such a great period. This is a Target Sealed 8. Okay, now a Target Sealed 8, they came in two different models. They came in, or like series, let's say. So there'd be like a first series and a second series. They looked very similar. The first series was 1932 to 1941. You could recognize them immediately because they have an octagonal barrel. And these they made in 6-inch and 10-inch length barrels. They had recessed chambers. And they didn't make many of those. Those were, production numbers on those were less than the second model, which is this guy. This guy's the second model. The second model was made from 47 to 54. Those had 4.5-inch or 6-inch barrels. So they dropped the 10-inch barrel and kept the 6. So the 6 you can get in either version. But the second model, 10-inch barrel was dropped. 4.5-inch barrel was added. And I think these things were called a Model 68. Target Sealed 8 was its name, but the model was really a Model 68. I think the 4.5-inch barrels were called Model 68S's. And, yeah, so I have some, let's get some production figures here. So this I got out of a book. The book, I wanted to write down the book's name. Now I feel bad. I want to show you the cover. This is the cover of the book right here. Somebody posted online a page. It just happened to be the exact page I want out of this book. I didn't get this book yet, but I'm gonna buy it. It's literally guys every Iver Johnson gun in here, and it's I've got an interest in them now, so I want to check it out. But basically, you could see here that in this first model, that 1935 and 1936, they didn't seem to make any. And in the other years, like 32 to 34 and 37, 38, 940 and 41, not many made. You know what I mean? Not even 2,000 made a year, except for, well, they have listed here for 41. But then you see 2, 3, 4, and 5 during World War II. They were definitely involved in the war effort. So nothing produced. And then this second model kicks in 46, post-war. And they don't have production numbers on these with exactly what serial numbers were attached to what year. So what they did was they did no total production. So they just took total production and divided it by each year, which is kind of like what I do when I'm in a situation like that. I did the same thing. And it came out to 17,380 per average per year. So then they just allot that along the years and the serial numbers. And this guy came up with 1949, which is with the same thing that I did. I did the same thing. But it could be that they made a lot more right after the war. And then maybe towards the end it tapered off. So it could be that it's an earlier model. I mean, you're really not 100% sure when you do that, when they don't have exact numbers. So let me show you some of these ads. Here's some interesting ads now for this gun. So here's an ad that shows the Iver Johnsons with Harrington and Richardson, H&R revolvers, and some Zephyr pistol near the bottom. This is what was kind of like around its contemporaries. See this Super Shot Sealed 8 Right next to it was another very, very popular Iver Johnson gun that had been around for a long time. This is when things they started like changing a little bit here. Now, Iver Johnson had these sales terms that they would use, which that Super Shot Sealed 8, they started moving into this hammer the hammer safety automatic revolver thing that they started to talk about. And what this was something that had to do with how the hammer works, almost like a transfer bar, sort of. Something inside that would prevent if the hammer was hit. I guess back then, if the hammer was hit, it would be sitting right on top of the round and you'd be able to set it off. This was like a big thing that they did, this hammer the hammer safety thing. And this flash control cylinder also was like a big thing for them that they started marketing. The flash control cylinder, if you see it right here, it just shows that there's like a lip around the edge of the cylinder so that the flash from the round, the fire that would shoot out the side of the cylinder, like through the gap, that edge right there would kind of mitigate that a little bit. And this hammer the hammer safety automatic thing to them was like a big deal also. Now, if you check out this ad, okay, so you see the Super Shot Sealed 8 on the top. That's the 833. You know what the 833 is, the one on top. You see in the middle the Target Sealed 8 and the Champion 22 Target single action. You see them down there. Now look close. Look where it says Model 68. And then next to it, you see how it says this model does not have the hammer safety device and is not to be designated as Iver Johnson. Look how weird that is. And you see at the top one, Iver Johnson Super Shot Sealed 8 Target Revolver. On the bottom, Iver Johnson Safety Revolvers. And it shows them there, 38 Special, 38 Smith & Wesson, different models. And the Target Sealed 8 is called an IJ. Just IJ. How strange that. And if you look on the top where they identify the gun here, it is IJ Target Sealed 8. IJ A and C. Arms and Cycle Works. Fitchburg, Massachusetts, USA. So they like distanced themselves from their own product. Like they, for some reason, these ones that didn't have this hammer the hammer safety were like, what is that? What kind of thing is that to say? Like, they're not to be designated as Iver Johnson. Weird. But they did, I mean, when the production on these ended in 54, they moved right into this Model 50 Sidewinder and this Model 55. Where is it? I have it here, a 55. Here's another ad that'll show like this different guns that they moved into here. And they never turned back and looked at these things. This is, I guess, when they started to change and move into a more higher quality product. Because if you go back, look at this Super Shot Sealed 8. It has a extractor. It shows you there underneath the gun, the extractor. It says that it's counterboard and the extractor is also counterboard. And you see up on the left side over there, there's the sight adjustable sights. So it was supposedly some big deal that these things didn't have adjustable sights. And not only that, I'm going to show you how it functions in a second. But there was definitely a move to a more more quality product. Let's put it that way. So that's what I was dealing with. Now you know. There's a little bit of history, enough history to show you. Let's get into this thing now and show you. This is what I took home. And I noticed a couple of things. I noticed that, number one, the cylinder was just spinning like this. And I was like, something's wrong here. I noticed that, like, it would function properly. Even double action, it would function. But that something had to be wrong here. After messing with it, you see how it works is there's a button down here. So you kind of squeeze this, and you pull this pin out. And when you get the pin out, then the cylinder comes free. And that's how you would unload it. I got a couple of, don't get nervous, they're just empty brass in here, because I wanted to show you. These are the light, you know what, I think if I zoom, you'll see it better. Look at these light primer strikes, huh? Look at how light those were. And it was even lighter than that. This actually, these are ones that I just fired out of it to do the, for the footage to do this video. That's what I got it to do. It was much worse. It wasn't even contacting the brass. And I'll show you why. So what was happening was, but that's how you would load it. I mean, that's how you would unload it. You unload it by literally taking the rod that holds everything together here, and you would just push these out. And so then I guess if you're taking it out to load them, at this point you could just load them all if you wanted to. But you see how it is counterboard, which is kind of cool. And then so you would drop it in here, and then you put the pin back in. You got to squeeze this doohickey here, and you get the pin back in here, and it locates everything back in place again. You make sure it's clicked in all the way there at the end, and that's the story. Now if you wanted to load it, they make this loading gate right here. So if you wanted to load it through here, you could, and you could pop them out through here too, but obviously you'd be pulling the pin and this cylinder would fall out. But when I'm messing around at the range with it, you could have like a wooden dowel like this, and as long as it's thin enough to reach through, you just pop them out one at a time and load them one at a time also. But you know what, in my opinion, it's just safer just to take the whole cylinder out, unload it, load the whole cylinder, put it back. I have to be very careful, because one of the issues I was having was with the hammer and the sear. We'll get into that. But that's why you wouldn't want to leave the hammer back like this if you're having issues, and then start putting the cylinder in and then manipulating it around to get this pin in or whatever. Who knows if you're even pointing it at some point towards yourself, not without even realizing it. And you know, this just wasn't. It's better now because I've messed with it a little, but couldn't be sure if this hammer was just going to drop. So let me show you what the problems I was having was. It wouldn't fire. It wouldn't. And the issue is this looseness here. Can you see it? This looseness here was causing enough of a gap where when the hammer fell, it was it wouldn't strike the rim hard enough to sit off the round. And you could see if I held the cylinder back, you could see like it wouldn't rotate. See, it locks in here. If I push it back this way, I could feel that it would lock in. So I'd say, well, it's obviously worn on the face of it here, like where is its bearing surface, you know? And I found that surface was right here. You could see the gap here. So the gap, let me get a pointing tool so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. This will do. So the gap I'm talking about is right down in here. And that gap, that's where this thing rotates. See that? And that's where the rotation wore away the face of that. Originally, I was thinking maybe it's got something to do with the hammer, because I'm like, look at the hammer. It's flattened. So it's worn. The hammer is worn flat here. So that's why it's not reaching through far enough, because of, look, the point is gone. So I looked online to buy a hammer, and this is what I found. A replacement hammer that looks identical. It could still be worn, that just the flat part is worn, but I doubted it. I said, well, it looks pretty good. But you see down here on the bottom of the hammer, this is, if you're going to replace the hammer, it's going to be, because you want to get one that has some nice sharp edges here. If you look on my 1890 Winchester video I did with replacing the hammer, because it would fire from half cock, you know, so I did a little bit of a repair there or whatever, and to fix that. This thing could probably do with another hammer, but the problem with these is you're finding a lot of parts that are just as old and worn as the parts you have. So, you know, they don't make new ones. So I'm like, well, let me just take this one step at a time. Let me see if I could resolve this somehow. So what I did was, and I had extra of these, and I can't find them. I don't know what I did with them. I looked around last night. I was going crazy. Give me a break. I couldn't find them. But I found some washers, right? And they were much larger than this. They didn't look like this. It would be really nice if I could just find a washer just like this. But I couldn't. So I had to take a washer that existed. And I know it's not like it's hardened steel or anything. It's kind of like a soft metal here, but I needed something to just take up that gap. And you know what? If it lasts a little while, and it's like I really needed to just shoot this thing and know that I could make it work safely. I didn't want to do it somehow where it's not safe. So what I found was, and I hope I could get this together. Now it's going to be kind of embarrassing. It's not easy to get together, and it wasn't a perfect fix. But this, I shaped it, hammered it, filed it, sanded it, played with it until I got it to this exact size to go right in there. Whoops. Let me do that again so I could show you. So it goes right in there and takes up that gap a little bit to keep this in place where it would fire. And I'm going to take the tiniest bit of gun oil here. Just put it right there on that edge. And it's not the easiest thing to get together now either with that like that, because now everything all has to be lined up perfectly. And I don't want to damage that washer. Let's look in there and see if I just got lucky. That's perfect. There we go. So now you can see that play is gone. So now it's able to set off the brass. You see that movement is gone. So now I can't rotate it anymore, just freely, see? Now it sticks in there. And again, did I give it like another 100 years? No, certainly not. But it's hitting now. Now it's hitting hard enough. It's hitting hard enough to set it off almost every time. Not exactly every single time, but it worked. It fired, and made me happy that I at least made this thing functional. That really made me happy. So yeah, let's get back into a little kind of weirdness. So I'll tell you one thing about Iver Johnson. When Iver Johnson was making these ads during the Depression for the safety for women, and both the safety that the guns wouldn't go off if they were hit by a hammer, number one, and for women, they were marketed a lot towards women to be safe and stuff like that. These are some of the most disturbing ads I've ever seen. Look at how weird some of these are. There's like, come on, that's disturbing. Look at that. Oof. You know, yeah, that is weird. And Iver Johnson also. There's a weird thing where Iver Johnson guns have this black cloud hanging over them as far as like assassinations go. In 9601, a President McKinley was assassinated in Buffalo, New York, with an Iver Johnson .32 caliber safety automatic. I even have the serial number. So if you have a .32 caliber safety automatic, check your serial number. You might have a consecutive one or something. And this gun is in the Buffalo History Museum. They made that, so you say 1901, you're like, holy crap, that they made that hammer, that safety automatic. What was it called again? A safety automatic. Yeah, they made that from 1895 to 1941. So they made that thing all the way around from way at the beginning, you know, only like whatever, 10, 20 years into their existence, all the way up to World War II, all the way through World War I. And in World War II, after World War II, they never brought it back. So McKinley, President McKinley, in 1933, Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak was killed in Miami in an attempt to shoot President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt with a .32 caliber revolver. That was a United States Revolver Company gun, but that was a subsidiary of Iver Johnson. If you want to read about a crazy story, dig into this one. I'm not even going to get into it, but supposedly this guy Joe Zangara was the killer. This guy was like executed in like a week. They didn't fool around back then. They didn't wait, you know. And then there were stories afterwards that the real target was this mayor, you know, and they had like they were like, how did the mayor get killed if he was going to assassinate Roosevelt? And they were like, oh, some old lady bumped into his arm with her purse. They say that this Cermak guy might have been the real target because of some stuff that had to do with Capone, or that he killed someone else and it was retaliation. It's you want to go down a rabbit hole, 1933 Chicago. Go check that out. All right, so that Iver Johnson was, you know, the Iver Johnson Company was a subsidiary of the gun that did that nonsense. And then June 5th, 1968, Sirhan used an 8-shot .22 caliber Iver Johnson Cadet 55A, which was the replacement for this. The replacement of the Target Sealed 8 was the 55A. He used a 55A revolver, serial number H53725. Again, for anybody that might have one that's serial number, go check your serial numbers. He used that to shoot and kill presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Yeah, there was a lot of research going on with this guy, but I kind of feel like no matter how much I would have been reading or looking or doing, I would have had more and more and more, you know. And it's like you start getting away with this. There's so much history with this company that, you know, you just show the gun and you want to talk a little bit about the history, but there's more company history than there even is information on this one particular model. I'll throw out one more piece of history. The bicycle company that they had, O.F. Mossberg, the original Mossberg, like the elder Mossberg, the guy that started the company, he worked in the bicycle plant and started his own firearms factory. But I'm sure it had something to do with the influence from, you know, Iver Johnson. He was working for a company that also made guns, you know, and he wound up being pretty successful himself. So there's some kind of connection there. I wonder if you take a look at what Iver Johnson was putting on the table around when Mossberg was working there. Maybe he was spending some time knocking around in the firearms factory, seeing how things were going down there. I know Mossberg made like a interesting kind of handgun as his first handgun, which was kind of reminds me of this thing in a way somehow, just when I see pictures of it. But now it shoots. A deep cleaning fixed an issue where the hammer wouldn't really stay back. Where if I cocked it like this, and it wouldn't take much manipulation, I wouldn't have to pull the trigger at all. If you notice, the trigger's set off by like literally a button down there that's like visible that you could see. So you could even see the movement of the trigger before it touches that. I wouldn't even need to touch that button down there. I could just kind of like push forward with my thumb and it would fall all the way. That's not good. And just by cleaning it and kind of like tightening a couple of things, it holds now. But I'm very careful. I'm very, very careful at the range with it. And like I said, this isn't something I'm going to be going all the time with. I just want to know that it's sitting there. And if I put some 22 rounds into it, it's going to work. And of course, I was using like the CCI quiet. I mean, I was just the least powerful 22 that you could find would be best. I mean, even if you just use like shorts or whatever, you know. And then I was having better luck with some than with other ammo. I was using some shorts, and I was noticing that there was some difference between like some Remington shorts and the CCI shorts in that the thickness of the rim. The thicker the rim is, obviously, the easier it's going to be when you're having problems with the firing pin reaching out to the round. But these CCI quiets, they were doing all right. It would like miss on one or two. It seemed like it would miss on one, and I bet you if I checked, it'd probably be the same cylinder all the time, because maybe that counter bore is a little bit deeper than the others. You know, quality control might not have been that great on these things for that reason, you know. So, yeah, so that was it for, look, you don't pick up many guns for double digits these days, right? And what are you going to expect from me? It was exactly what I wanted. Something to play with, something to mess with. Got to be careful. Always remember, when you're getting in there with stuff like that, that's a little dicey. You got to watch what's going on. Be careful. Be careful. Work with snap caps. And when you go to the range, you have to be extra diligent with your keeping the muzzle pointed downrange no matter what, because you never know what kind of surprises are in store for something like this. That's you know, that can just it's not working 100% right, and it could be doing anything, you know what I mean? But my little fix was excellent, and gotta love this thing. It's it fits into the collection nicely as a post-war 22 caliber pistol from a company that just came out with 8 billion different types of pistols. So many that I look through my books and I try to get some. I'm looking in the my Encyclopedia of Modern Firearms, not in there. Numrich, not in there. Can't find Model 68. It's like they just so many. And I'm telling you, this thing was. I have a feeling that this was kind of like a little bit of a, you know, just a little bit of a embarrassment sort of a way for Iver Johnson. I don't know. Even I kind of just felt like in a lot of even their ads, it just disappeared real quick. And it's interesting to find that one ad that said, let me quote it. This is not to be designated as Iver Johnson. Woo! Yeah. Yep. I'll designate you as Iver Johnson in my video. It's an Iver Johnson Target Sealed 8. And you all take care. And I'll see you next time.